some features and how to use them using the toolbar and also some of the options up here with TeacherMade. So let's say that I have a sample up here of some fill in the blanks where I want the kids to be able to pick which word fits in the blank appropriately. So I would probably choose up here with the, open answer, okay? Or you can do short answer, fill in the blank as well. So either one will work, but for me, I want specific ones for them to actually select to use. So I'm gonna do insert short answer. So I'm going to simply draw a text box and I can resize it to how I want it. And then I want to go ahead and I want to make several of these. So I have the box selected. So I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to duplicate it a couple of times. Then I'm going to move the text boxes where I want them to go. And now what I need to do is I need to insert the responses. So in order to do this, I'm going to go ahead and select the first box, double click on it. I'm going to assign it a point value and I have up to 10, or I can do not score. I'm going to choose 1 for my point value. Then I'm going to list the correct answer for this, which is electromagnetic spectrum. Now notice I capitalized mine, but let's just say I don't expect the kids to. So as long as I leave it like that, I should be fine. However, if I want my students to match the case, whether it be upper or lower, I can select this box and it will be case sensitive at that point. So right now, I don't need it to be case sensitive. So I'm going to unlock that feature and then all I do is save and there is my response. I'm going to do that for the rest of these. Okay, so I've gone in and I've added in all my response boxes and I've made sure they're not case sensitive. I can do a couple of changes inside the box if I want to. For example, inside of this one, I wrote ultraviolet rays and I also put UV rays in case some of my kids' response with just the U and the V and the rays as their option. So I added that as another possible correct answer for them just to make it a little bit more friendly for them. But if I don't want to, I don't have to do that. Now, down below, we'll see, well, we have 2 long response answers. So I can use the option up here by putting in the P, which is open answer, long answer paragraph. Those you would have to grade on your own for the most part. But let's just say I don't really want to utilize these right now. So what are my options? Do I just tell my kids to skip it? No, I actually have a few things I can do. So what I can do is I can go up here to color block / eraser, and I can click on this and I can outline the space right here. And when I do that, it blocks it out, which is kind of nice to do. But I see that black line going around and I'm afraid my kids might get confused because they're not sure if they're supposed to do something inside of that box. So edit color block is up here. My fill color is white, which I can change to a different one if I want to, but I just kind of want to pretend like I'm erasing it for my students. So I'm going to make that white and I'm going to change the border line. I can either choose no border at all or I can choose white to make it go away. I'm going to choose no border. And now what the student will see is absolutely nothing right there. And just in case, if I'm curious, is this worked or not, this is the preview button for my students, which you give it just a second and it should populate. Okay, and as you can see here, these are the blanks that I created for my students. And then down here, this is the space where I blocked out the responses for the students. You can see this is what they would see as just a blank space for them to move on to the next section. So I can close that out and go back. And now I'm going to look at this next section on matching. Okay, with the matching, I actually have several options. If I want my students to do the traditional matching style, where I actually insert and draw lines to where things should go, I can do that. That's one option that I have, where they actually match the technology to the term, and by drawing the appropriate letter to the right box. Or if I wanted to, I could create a drop down. And with the drop down, what I do is I simply draw a box, make it the size that I want it. Okay, and then I double click and open it up and my list of choices are going to be my letters. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay? You can choose to shuffle them if you want to, but for myself, I do not want to do that. I'm going to set my point value. I'm going to save my changes. And then it says to auto-score this item, you will need to mark one of the choices as the correct one. Click on the circle to the left of a choice to mark it as correct. Okay, great. That's a good feature of TeacherMade. It stopped me before it inserted this to let me know, hey, you need to select the correct answer. So for me, the select answer is C. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in that circle. And now I'm going to try to save again. And there it is. Now, let's just say we want to go ahead and complete this process for each one, but we want to shorten the process time in which it takes. So all we need to do is to go up to Edit and click Duplicate. Now, notice that C is automatically chosen because we're duplicating exactly what we did up here. So what we'd want to do is open that up and simply change the response to the one that applies to that question, and you can see it changes it as we go. So we'll finish this process. Okay, so from my end, again, you can see that I've put in all of my matching boxes and they're able to correctly choose from the drop down and be able to choose which answer they want to respond to. Okay, and then you can do this. This is just, using the drop down. You could, if you wanted to, use multiple choice. And again, just choose A through G, as my options for my particular one, or I could use check boxes. So there's a lot of variety in this type of questioning method. Now we go down to the bottom for the true-false. These are really nice and simple to put in. This one has a little bit of a catch to it because the students have to rewrite the statement to make it true. And so for me, I want to kind of modify that a little bit to make it a little bit more user-friendly for the digital side. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and put in my true-false. Up here I have choice. I can either have them actually use the words true, false to select from, or use T and F, yes and no, or Y, comma, N. Those are my possibilities, and for myself, I'm just going to go ahead and use T and F because I don't have a ton of room on the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my box, and you can see it automatically fits into where I want it to be, but it's covering the word, so I need to be able to move it a little bit. So I'm probably going to have to make it a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to find my 4 arrows, and I'm going to slide it over. Now, it does cover the number, but that doesn't really impact me because in the end, this is going to be auto-graded. So it'll automatically count up what I want in terms of point value. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and select the correct answer, and you do that by clicking on either T or F. You can see it shades it in. So again, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And because it's the right size that I want, I'm going to move it to the position that I want. But this one is false. So, now I want to kind of mess with this a little bit. I want the students to be able to pick out what parts of this is incorrect instead. That's what I want them to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to go up to my text box feature. And I'm going to make a text box right here. And in that text box, I'm going to write that I want the students to select the incorrect term or terms. Now I have some choices here. I can either select my text and make it bold, italic, underline. I can change the style of the font. I can change the size of the font, the color of it if I want to make it stand out a little bit more. And I think I'm going to do that because I want my students to really make sure that they understand that, hey, I need you to do this part if it is a false statement so they don't miss out on it. And then the fill color for my text box. Do I want it transparent? No, not in this case. And that is because I want to cover up some of the original directions because I'm essentially rewriting them. So I'm going to make it selected to have this white background instead. I'm going to click Save Changes, and then I notice, hey, this isn't quite big enough. So I'm going to extend it out a little bit, and then I'm going to slide it over, and I'm going to replace it right here over the top of everything. So that way my directions are now modified and it stands out a little bit to them. And I said, if it is false, write F and select the incorrect term or terms. So now's the time where I got to make this actually happen for them so they have the option to make something or choose what is incorrect. Okay, for this part, I am going to use the HotSpot feature, which is the little fire icon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the sentence right here and identify obviously which part of it is incorrect. And actually for me, the part that's incorrect is this part, only visible light waves. So instead, I want them to pretty much identify that that's the part that's incorrect. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Hotspot and I'm going to pull it across and open up a little box. Now for me, it's up to you. You can have rounded corners, but I prefer to have mine squared off. So I uncheck up here and make it more square or rectangular in shape. Then what I'm going to do is, as I have this selected, I'm going to go to Edit, and again, Duplicate. It's going to make another one for me. And I want them to choose between electromagnetic radiation or only visible light waves. So I want them to choose between those two, but right now they're not linked together, meaning there's no way to tell which one is correct. So what we want to do is you want to hold down the Shift button and select one text box. And then while you hold down that Shift button, select the second text box, and you'll see how they turn blue. When that happens, now I need to go in and choose who is right and who is wrong. So I'm going to double click again to open it up. This is the spot I do not want the kids to click. Okay, so I'm going to check this box. It's worth 1 point, and I want to save my changes. Then I go over to this one, click the students should click this hotspot, and save the changes. Now these two are linked together, and I would repeat this process throughout the rest of my document. Okay, so now let's assume we finished the document and we are ready to use it. Let's move on to the next step.